Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing good. Today, we are going to start the topic corporate and business law. But before starting this subject, we should know what is law. We should all know, first of all, we will try to understand what is law. Law are some rules that is developed by the government of a country, and the citizens of that country have to follow those rules. Law are some rules of conduct that is developed by the government, and the citizens of the country will have to follow those rules. For example, for example, there is a rule that you cannot kill any person, and if you do so, you will have to go to the jail, as well as you will have to pay the penalty. You will have to go to the jail, as well as you will have to pay the penalty. There are some rules like you have to stop your vehicle at red light, and you can cross your vehicle only after the signal is green. Why these rules are developed by the government? Why government develop these types of rules? Government develop these types of rules so that it can maintain discipline in the country. It can maintain discipline in the country. The citizens of the country may have some security. That's why government develop these rules of conduct. For example, if there is no such rule that if you kill someone, you will have to pay penalty or you may go to jail, then there will be no fear in our mind. There will be no fear in our mind, and and because there is a fear in our mind that if we kill someone, we may have to go to jail, we have to pay the penalty. The people are disciplined. There is a sense of security in us that no person can do anything wrong with us, because if someone do anything wrong with us, the government will punish that person. Now, there are rules like you cannot break the traffic signal. You have to stop at red light, and you can move your vehicle only when the signal is green. Now, why such law is developed by the government? Such law is developed by the government for us to maintain the discipline, for us to regulate the traffic in the country. Because if there is no such signals, then the traffic will not be regulated. There will be more accidents. So the law are rules of conduct developed by the government of a country which the citizens have to follow. And if you do not follow the rules, if you do not follow the law, you will have to pay the consequences. You may go to jail, or you may have to pay penalty, or both. So law is a rule of conduct. Law is a rule of conduct developed by the government over a country. What is the object of law? Why government develop law? Why government develop rule of conduct? What is the object behind making laws? The object behind making law is to provide security to the citizens. Also also to maintain discipline in the country. As I told you, that you cannot kill any person. If you do so, you may have to face the consequences. You may go to jail, and you may have to pay penalty as well. And because of that fear, you you do not do such type of act. And people of the country have this security that if any person do anything wrong with us, then that person will have to go to the jail. Getting my point? Now now law is also developed for us to remove the imbalances in the society. Law is also developed for us to remove the imbalances in the society. How a law can remove imbalance in a society? how a law can remove imbalance in a society. Now, for example, there is a law in income tax that if your income is up to 2,50,000 per annum, if you are earning rupees 2,50,000 per annum, you do not have to pay any tax. If you are earning rupees 2,50,000 per annum, then you do not have to pay any tax. You do not have to pay any tax. And why this law is developed, why this rule is developed by the government? Because a person is earning only rupees 2,50,000 in a year, he will meet out his expenses or he will pay the tax. Obviously government know that with 2,50,000 income he can only just meet out his expenses. So if you are earning rupees 2,50,000, you do not have to pay any tax. Now, if you are earning more than 2,50,000, you will have to pay tax because your earning is more. Your earning is more. Then you will have to pay certain amount of tax to the government. Suppose you are earning up to rupees 5 lakh. You are earning up to rupees 5 lakh. Then you will have to pay tax only 10%. If you are earning more than 10 lakh, if you are earning more than 10 lakh, then you will have to pay tax at the rate 20%. So you see, government has removed the imbalances. If your income is more, you will have to pay tax more because you can afford to pay tax more. If your income is low, you will have to pay less tax. And if your income is below 2,50,000, you do not have to pay any tax. So these types of law are developed so that government can bring a balance in the society. These types of law is developed so that government can bring a balance in the society. And it is very important. It is very important. So this is the objective of law. What is the objective of law? Objective of law is to bring a security in the society, is to maintain a discipline in the society, as well as it will remove the imbalances in the society. Classifications of law. What are the classification of law? How can you classify the law? We can classify the law on the basis of public and private law, civil and criminal law, substantive and procedural law, municipal and international law, written and unwritten law. Now we will try to understand each and every law in detail. First, I'm going to explain you what is public and private law. What is public and private law? For example, for example, public law. Public law is that law that deals with the relationship between state and its citizen. Public law is that law that deals with the relationship between the state and its citizen. Now, now let us understand this with an example. Now let us understand this with an example. For example, for example, Mr. A and B decides to rob a bank. Mr. A and B decides to rob a bank. Next day, they rob a bank. Next day, they rob a bank, that is ICICI Bank. Now, because of this act, whole society gets affected. Because of this act, not only one person get affected, but the whole society get affected. Now the government will intervene. Government will find out the person who has done this act. Government will find out Mr. A and Mr. B, and government will punish Mr. A and Mr. B because of their act. Because they rob a bank, whole society get affected. So these types of law is considered as public law that deals with the relationship between the state and its citizen. And because of those act, whole society get affected. What is private law? Private law is a relationship between the private citizens. Private law is a relationship between the private citizens. For example, I made a contract with my neighbor. I made a contract with my neighbor that I will sell my bike to him for rupees 10,000. I made a contract with my neighbor that I will sell my bike to him for rupees 10,000. He has given me 10,000, but I do not give him the bike. He has given me 10,000, but I do not give him the bike. Now, this type of act will affect only my neighbor, not the whole society. This type of act will affect only my neighbor, not the whole society, because it is a relationship, it is a contract between me and the neighbor. Now my neighbor can my now if my neighbor want, he can go to the police and he can file a report. After that the police will intervene, and then police will take the appropriate action. But because of this act, only my neighbor get affected. This type of law will be considered as private law. This type of law will be considered as private law. The act because of which only relationship between the private citizens get affected. The law that concerns itself with the relationship between the private citizens, relationship among the private citizen, will be considered as private law. So what we have seen in public law deals with the relationship between citizen and the state, because the acts which deals with public law affect the whole society. In private law concern itself with the relationship among private citizens, because the act which are under private law affect only the private citizens. Got my point? Okay. Now let's move ahead. What is civil law and what is criminal law? What is civil law and what is criminal law? Civil law are those laws that deals with the relationship between citizen, and it provide some remedy. It provides some remedy if the rights of the citizens are affected. Civil law are those laws which deal with the relationship among citizens. Civil law are those laws that deals with the relationship among citizens, and if the rights of the citizens are affected, or if the right of any citizen is breached, then it will provide you some solution. It will provide you some remedy. For example, I'm sitting at one night around 10 p.m. At one night around 10 p.m. I was sitting at my garden. I was sitting at my garden enjoying the weather. At one night around 10 p.m. I was sitting in my garden and I was enjoying the weather. Suddenly, suddenly my neighbor started playing music very loud. Suddenly my neighbor started playing music very loud. I called the police. The police came. The police came and instruct my neighbor to lower down the volume or to switch off the music system. Now the police intervene and police instruct my neighbor to lower down the volume or to switch off the music system. Now in this case, my right of privacy was affected. I was sitting in my garden. I was enjoying the weather, and my neighbor suddenly started playing music very loud. In this case, my right of privacy get affected. I called the police. They came. They instruct my neighbor to switch off the volume or or to low down the volume. This type of law will be considered as civil law, that affect the relationship, that deals with the relationship between the citizen, and it also provides some solution if the rights of the citizens get affected. This is called as civil law. Now what is criminal law? Criminal law, as the name suggests, regulates crime in the society. Criminal law, as the name suggests, regulates crime in the society. It punishes acts which are considered harmful for the whole society. It punishes acts which are considered harmful for the whole society. For example, there is a bomb blast which took place in Jaipur. There is a bomb blast which took place in Jaipur. Now, because of that bomb blast, whole society get affected. Now, because of that bomb blast, whole society get affected. It will be considered as a harmful act. It will be considered as a harmful act for the whole society. Because of that bomb blast, whole society get affected. That bomb blast is considered as harmful for the whole society. Now the government will try to find out the person who is behind that bomb blast, and the government will now punish that person who has done this act. So such type of act will be considered as criminal acts, and they will be regulated by criminal law. So criminal law, what criminal law does, it regulates crime in the society. It punishes the act which are considered harmful for the society at a large. Got my point? Now let's move ahead. Let's move ahead. What is substantive law and procedural law? First of all, we will discuss what is substantive law. Substantive law are those laws which establishes the rights and obligation of individual. Means what individual may do and what individual may not do. What is substantive law? Substantive law establishes rights and obligations of individual, that what individuals of a country can do and what they may not do. For example, the law says that any person can drive two-wheeler who is having license. Any person can drive two-wheeler, but to drive two-wheeler, you will be requiring license. You cannot drive two-wheeler without license. If you do so, if you do so, you will have to pay penalty. You will have to pay fine. So, what is substantive law? It establishes the rights and obligations of individual. What individual may do? They may drive two-wheeler or four-wheeler, but but only if they have license. But only if they have license. Now, you can drive two-wheeler if you have license, but for driving two-wheeler, you will have to wear helmet. You can drive two-wheeler if you have license, but for driving two-wheeler, you will have to wear helmet. So substantive law is laws that decide what individuals may do and what they may not do. We have right to speak, we can speak. We have right to walk, we can walk. We have right to drive, we can drive. But there are some laws, there are some rules which you have to follow. What is procedural law? What is procedural law? Procedural law deals with the law that lays down the ways and means by which the substantive law can enforce. Procedural law deals with the ways by which the substantive law can be enforced. For example, I told you, you can drive two-wheeler wearing helmet and having license. You can drive two-wheeler, but how can you drive two-wheeler? This will be enacted in procedural law. How can you drive two-wheeler? This will be enacted in procedural law. What is the procedure? What is the procedure that you have to follow by driving two-wheeler or four-wheeler? What is the procedure that you have to follow? For example, for driving two-wheeler, rule is that you cannot drive two-wheeler at a speed more than 60 or at a speed more than 50. For example, you cannot drive two-wheeler at a speed more than 50. You can drive two-wheeler, but what is the procedure? You cannot drive two-wheeler at a speed more than 50. If you do so, you will have to pay fine. You can drive two-wheeler, but you have to stop whenever there is red signal. You can drive two-wheeler, but what is the procedure? You have to stop. You have to stop whenever there is red signal. Whenever there is red signal, and you can go when the signal is green. You can pass the signal when the signal is green. So these are the procedures. So in substantive law, Substantive law establishes the rights and obligations of individual. What an individual may do and what an individual may not do. Procedural law lays down the ways or by means. Procedural law lays down the ways and means by which substantive law can be enforced. Got my point? Okay. Now let's move ahead. What is municipal law or domestic law and what is international law? What is domestic law and what is international law? Domestic law is that law. Domestic law is that law which affect the member of a particular country. Domestic law are those laws which affect the members of the particular country. For example, there is a rule. Suppose, for example, there is a rule in India that if you drive four wheeler without seat belt, if you drive four wheeler without seat belt, you will have to pay fine of rupees 1000. There is a rule in India that if I'm just giving an example. There is a rule in India. Suppose government made a rule in India that if you drive four wheeler without seat belt, you will have to pay fine of rupees 1000. Now, if I'm driving four wheeler in America, if I'm driving four wheeler in America, and I'm not wearing the seat belt. If I'm driving a four wheeler in America and I'm not wearing the seat belt, do I have to pay the same 1000 there just because I am an Indian? No. If you are driving four wheeler in America and you are not wearing the seat belt, you have to follow the rules. You have to follow the rules that is developed in America. Now, suppose in America that there is a law that if you do not wear the seat belt while driving the car, you will have to pay fine of rupees 10,000. Then if you are driving car in America without seat belt, you will have to pay 10,000, not 1000, because you are in America. You have to follow the rules of that country. So each country have their own rules and the members of that country have to follow those rules. What is international law? International law is a law between countries. International law regulates the relationship between different countries. For example, there is a universal declaration of human rights. Like, you have a right to speak in India, same you have a right to speak in America, same you have a right to speak in Japan. It is not like that you are an Indian, they won't let you speak in USA and they won't let you speak in France, or they won't let you speak in Japan. You have this universal right, you can speak anywhere freely in any country, because this is a law between countries that every person has a right to speak, right to walk. You have a right to walk in any country, in India, in America, in Japan, in Spain, in Australia, every country. You can walk in any country. No person can stop you from walking, and no person can stop you from talking in any country, because this is a universal declaration of human rights. So law which is between the countries, or law which regulates the relationship between the different countries, will be called as international law. So what is domestic law? Domestic law is the law which is developed by the government of a particular country, and the members of that country will have to follow those laws. What is international law? International law regulates the relationship between different independent countries, and you have to follow those. What is written law and what is unwritten law? What is written law? Now you must, by the name, you must have been thinking that written law is the law which is written in a document. As the name says, written law. So by the word written law, you all must be thinking that written law is a law that is written in a document. Written law are those laws which are validly enacted by the legislature of a country. Written law are those laws which are validly enacted by the legislature of country. Sir, when is a law validly enacted by the legislature of country? Sir, what is this validly enacted by the legislature of a country? For example, I tell you, few year back, there was rule that driving two-wheeler, while driving two-wheeler, the person who is driving the two-wheeler have to wear helmet, and the person who is sitting at the back do not have to wear the helmet. And we all were following this rule. The person who was driving the two-wheeler wears the helmet, and the person who do not drive two-wheeler, who is sitting at the back, do not have to wear any helmet. After some years, the government come with a new rule that on two-wheeler, both persons, who is driving and who is sitting at the back, will have to wear the helmet. Now, to bring this law, what procedure have to follow? First of all, this law will be written in a document that from now both persons who is sitting in front and who is sitting at the back will have to wear the helmet. Now this bill will be passed by both the houses of parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. This bill, first of all, it will be considered as bill in which it is written that both the persons who is sitting in front driving the two-wheeler and who is sitting at back will have to wear the helmet. Now this bill will be passed by both the houses of parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. After passing both the houses of parliament, the bill will be sent to the president. Now, if the president gives his signature on the bill, if the president gives his accent on the bill and make the bill signature and signs the bill, then it will be considered as validly enacted by legislature. Now that bill will come into force. So this will be known as written law, which are validly enacted by the legislature of a country. And when a law is validly enacted by the legislature of a country, when the bill is passed by both the houses of parliament and the president gives his assent, only then the law will be known as validly enacted by the legislature. And all the laws that are validly enacted by the legislature of a country will be treated as written law. Now, what is unwritten law? Unwritten law are obviously those laws which are not validly enacted by the legislature. Unwritten law are those laws which are not validly enacted by the legislature, but you have to follow. So, what are the laws which are not validly enacted by the legislature of a country, but you have to follow? For example, I will give you some example. In Hindus, it is a rule. That marriage will be considered only after you take 7 rounds around the fire. In Christian, they have their own rules of getting marriage. In Muslims, they have their own rules of getting marriage. So this is a customary rule. These are the customary laws. These are the customary rules that you have to follow. They are not written anywhere. Or for this no bill is passed. They are not validly enacted by the legislature. That in India, if you want to get married, you have to take 7 rounds around the fire. No. Christians have their own way of getting married. Muslims have their own way of getting married, and Hindus have their own ways of getting married. But if you have to get married, you have to follow those rules. Only then the marriage will be considered as legal. For all those acts, they are not validly enacted by the legislature. No rules, no laws has been enacted by the legislature. They are not written law. So what is written law? Again, written law are such law that are validly enacted by the legislature of a country. Unwritten law are those laws which are not validly enacted by the legislature. Got my point? Got my point? Okay. These are some illustrations related to the topic, but we will do the illustrations after one more topic. Let's take one more topic and then we will come to the illustrations point of view. I'm sharing the PPT with you. I'm sharing the PPT. Indian Contract Act 1872. We will start the new topic, Indian Contract Act 1872. Sir, what is this 1872? We all know we are going to study an act that is Indian contract. We are going to study an act that is Indian Contract Act. But what is this 1872? What is this 1872? 1872 is year 1872. 1872 is year 1872. It means in year 1872, Indian Contract Act has come into force. In year 1872, Indian Contract Act has come into force. Now, before studying Indian Contract Act, we all should know what is a contract. We all should know, we all should understand first what is contract. Then only we will get to know what is an Indian Contract Act. Indian Contract Act deals with all types of contracts. As the name suggests, Indian Contract Act. So in Indian Contract Act, it deals with all types of contracts. For example, my neighbor wants to sell his car. My neighbor Mr. Rahul, my neighbor Mr. Rahul wants to sell his car. I made a contract with him, I made an agreement with him. I made an agreement with Mr. Rahul that I will take your car for rupees 5 lakh. I will take your car for rupees 5 lakh. He said, okay. Now me and Rahul, we made an agreement. In that agreement, Rahul promises to give his car to me and I promise to give 5 lakh rupees to Rahul. This is an agreement between me and Rahul. Rahul will give his car and I will give him 5 lakh rupees. So this is an agreement between me and Rahul where I will give my car, I will give my money to Rahul and Rahul will give me his car. So sir, is this agreement a contract? No. This agreement is not a contract. To become a contract, this agreement to become a contract, it has to be enforced by law under section 2 subsection H. To become a contract, this agreement has to be enforced by law. To become a contract, this agreement has to be enforced by law under section 2 subsection H. So what is this section 2 subsection H? But in section 2 subsection H, there are some conditions. There are some conditions. If those conditions are fulfilled, if all those conditions are fulfilled, then an agreement will be converted into a contract. In section 2 subsection H, there are some conditions, and if all the conditions are fulfilled, then that agreement will be known as contract. If any of the condition is not fulfilled, then that agreement cannot be considered as contract. Sir, what are the conditions? See, an agreement is enforced by law if it is made by free consent of the parties. Now, Mr. Rahul wants to sell his car, and I am ready to give him 5 lakh rupees. We made this agreement with the free consent. I do not force Rahul, or I do not point a gun on the head of Rahul. Neither Rahul put a gun on the gun point on my head that you have to purchase my car or I will do this. The contract is made with the free consent. I am ready to buy his car for 5 lakh and he is ready to sell his car for 5 lakh. So number one condition, free consent of the party. Now, number two consideration, lawful object. Lawful object. Rahul wants to sell his car and I want to give him 5 lakh rupees. Is there anything which is not lawful? Is there anything which is not lawful? No, sir. Any person can sell his car for whatever amount he wants. Any person in this country can sell his car for whatever amount he wants. There is nothing unlawful. This is a lawful object. To sell a car is a lawful object. Okay, this condition is fulfilled. This condition is also fulfilled. Now, is this agreement void? It means that Rahul should be authorized to sell the car. Rahul should be authorized to sell the car. It means the car should be in the name of Rahul. Rahul should have the authority to sell the car. Yes, sir. Rahul have the authority to sell the car. The car is in the name of Rahul. He can sell the car. So it means the agreement is not void. The agreement is not void. Rahul can sell the car. Rahul is authorized to sell the car. If all these conditions are fulfilled, it means this agreement will be considered as a contract. This agreement will be known as contract. Got my point? Got my point? So, a contract is an agreement that is enforced by law under section 2, subsection H. An agreement will be considered as enforced by law if following conditions are fulfilled. The agreement should be done with the free consent of the party. There should be lawful object. There should be lawful consideration. The agreement should not be void. If all the conditions are fulfilled, then an agreement will be known as contract. Got my point? Everyone got my point? Now, sir, it means all contracts are agreement, but not all agreements are contract. All contracts are agreement, but not all agreements are contract. I will tell you. Suppose Mr. Ram made a contract with Mr. Sham. Mr. Ram made a agreement. Sorry. Mr. Ram made a agreement. Mr. Ram made an agreement with Mr. Sham to kill Mr. A. Mr. Ram made an agreement with Mr. Sham to kill Mr. A. Mr. Ram said to Mr. Sham that if you kill Mr. A, I will give you 1 lakh rupees. Mr. Sham said, okay, I will kill Mr. A and you pay me 1 lakh rupees. This is an agreement between Ram and Sham. This is an agreement between Ram and Sham, where Ram will pay 1 lakh rupees and Sham will kill Mr. A. Now, this agreement will be considered as contract if all the conditions are fulfilled. Number one condition, free consent of the party. Yes, sir, there is free consent of the party. Mr. Ram has made the agreement with free consent and Mr. Sham has also made the agreement with free consent. That he will kill Mr. A and Mr. Ram will pay 1 lakh rupees. Lawful object. To kill someone, is it a lawful object? No, sir. Law do not allow any person to kill any person. Law do not allow you to kill any person. This is an unlawful object. This condition is not fulfilled. It means this agreement will not be considered as contract. This agreement will not be considered as contract. So got my point? It means this all the agreements, all the agreements will converted into contract if the conditions under section 2 subsection H are fulfilled. Otherwise, they will remain as agreement. It means to become a contract, first you have to become the agreement. And if that agreement fulfills the condition, then you become the contract. To become a contract, the agreement first have to fulfill the condition, then it become a contract. It means all contracts are agreement, but not all agreements are contract. An agreement will be converted into contract if it fulfills all the conditions which are laid down under section 2 subsection H. Got my point now? Got my point? Okay. In agreement, both the parties have some obligations or some promises which both the parties have to perform. Some promises which both the parties has to perform. Such agreement is made binding by the law is called as contract. For example, for example, I went to buy a television. I went to buy a television. I asked the shopkeeper what is the price of the television. The shopkeeper told me that the price of the television is rupees 50,000. The shopkeeper told me that the price of the television is rupees 50,000. I said, okay, I will purchase this television. I said, okay, I will purchase this television. Now in this contract, the shopkeeper promises to give me television and I promise to give 50,000 to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper promises to give me television and I promise to give 50,000 to the shopkeeper. We both have made some promises. Now we both have to fulfill these promises. Shopkeeper have to give me television. After he give me television, his promise is performed. I will have to pay him 50,000. After I pay him 50,000, my part of promise is performed. So in a contract, both the parties agree to perform some promises, and both the party have to perform such promises. Got my point? Got my point, everyone? Okay. So let's make a quick revision. What is a contract? Sir, a contract is an agreement that is enforceable by law under section 2 subsection H. And there are some conditions which have to be fulfilled under section 2 subsection H. What are the conditions? The contract must be made with the free consent of the party. The consideration should be lawful. The object of the contract should be lawful. The contract should not be void. The party should be competent to contract. The party should be competent to contract means both the parties should be major, should not be minor. Both the parties should be major means above the age of 18 years. And both the parties should have sound mind, not of ill mind or unsound mind. Any mad person, any person with the unsound mind, if made an agreement, that agreement cannot be considered as a contract. To consider a agreement to be a contract, the person should be of sound mind. The person should be of sound mind. Suppose I made an agreement with Mr. B. Mr. B says that I will sell you my car for rupees 1 lakh. I will sell you my car for rupees 1 lakh. That car actual price was rupees 10 lakh. That car's actual price was rupees 10 lakh. But Mr. A agrees that he will sell his car for rupees 1 lakh to me. I have given him 1 lakh rupees and he has given me his car. Now we get to know that Mr. A is a mad person. Mr. A is a mad person. He is of an unsound mind. Mr. A is of an unsound mind. It means now this agreement cannot be considered as contract. This agreement cannot be considered as contract. Now I may have to return his car and I will take my money back. I may have to return his car and he will have to give me the money back. So to become a agreement to a contract, it should be validly enforced by law, and when it is validly enforced by law, after fulfilling the following conditions, that is free consent, lawful consideration, lawful object, parties must be competent to contract, and it should not be a void agreement. No. What are the essentials of a valid contract? What are the essentials of a valid contract? It means to made a valid contract, what are the conditions that you have to fulfill? What are the essentials of a valid contract? Offer and acceptance. There should be offer as well as acceptance. Consideration. It means there should be some consideration. Free consent. Capacity. Lawful object. Now we will explain you. I will explain you all these 5 conditions, all the 5 essential points in detail. First, we will discuss about offer and acceptance. First thing to form a contract. First thing to form a contract, to make a contract, there should be some offer. There should be some offer. Suppose I am running an electronic shop, and I am selling electronic items like television, air condition, refrigerator, microwave, and all. So I'm running an electronic shop and I am selling electronic items. Now, as long as now it means that I am offering all those items for sale. Now it means I'm offering all those items for sale. Now there should be some person who accept my offer. There should be some person who accept my offer, then only I can make a contract. I am running an electronic shop and I am selling the electronic items like television, refrigerator, air condition, and all. It means that I am offering all those items for sale. Now there should be some person who accept the offer. If any person comes to my shop and says that I want to purchase a television, I said that television will cost you 40,000 rupees. He said, okay, I will purchase the television for 40,000 rupees. Now he accepted my offer. He accepted my offer. It means it will be a contract. Now it will become a contract. So offer is the first thing for the formation of a contract. Offer is the first thing for the formation of a contract. The person who is making the offer is known as offerer. I was running the shop. I was making the offer to sell the television. So I will be known as offerer. The person who is making the offer will be known as offerer. And the person to whom the offer is made is known as offering. The person to whom the offer is made is known as offering. So first thing for formation of a contract will be known as offer. What is the second step required for formation of a contract? For formation of a contract, second most thing which is required is acceptance. There should be some person who should accept the offer, then only a contract can come into force. There should be someone who accept the offer, then only a contract can come into force. If no person accepts the offer, a offer cannot be converted into a contract. It means the second most important step in formation of the contract is acceptance of the offer. There should be some person who accept the offer. There should be some person who accept the offer. Only then the offer and acceptance together can make a contract. So this was the first essential point. This was the first essential point for a valid contract, that is offer and acceptance. Offer is the first step for the formation of a contract. The person who is making the offer is known as offeree. Acceptance is the second step in the formation of contract. The person who accepted the offer will be known as offeree. Got my point? Got my point? Now next, consideration. consideration. A contract is formed when a person makes an offer to another person and another person accepted the offer. It will be considered as agreement only because there should be some consideration. For example, I will give you some example. I made an agreement with my friend Mr. Vinod. I made an agreement with my friend Mr. Vinod that I will give you my bike for rupees 10,000. Mr. Vinod said, okay, I will purchase your bike for rupees 10,000. Now, this agreement will be considered as valid contract. This agreement will be considered as valid contract because there is a consideration. There is a consideration. What is the consideration? For me, consideration is rupees 10,000. Consideration is rupees 10,000 because I am giving my bike, and in the exchange of that bike, what I am taking rupees 10,000. So that 10,000 will be considered for that 10,000 for me will be consideration. Whatever price, whatever amount, whatever value I am getting in exchange of my bike will be considered as consideration. That is 10,000 rupees. For Mr. Vinod, consideration is bike because he is giving 10,000 rupees, and for 10,000 rupees he is getting bike. For him, the bike will be considered as consideration. The value of his 10,000 is the bike. So consideration means the value given for the performance of a promise. Consideration means the value given for the performance of the promise. Got my point? Now it is not necessary that the consideration should be in money. It is not necessary that the consideration should be in money. It is just said in the act that consideration means some value. That both the party to the contract receive some value. For example, I made a contract with Mr. Vinod that I will give you my Kia Seltos and you give me your Creta. Mr. Vinod said, okay, I will give you my Creta and in exchange I will take Kia Seltos. Now this is also a valid contract because the consideration for my Kia Seltos is Creta. Consideration for my car, Kia Seltos, is the another car, Creta. And for Mr. Vinod, consideration for his car, Creta, is Kia Seltos. For Mr. Vinod, consideration for his car, Creta, is Kia Seltos. I am giving Creta, and in exchange, I am taking Creta. For consideration for me is Creta. Mr. Vinod is giving Creta and in exchange taking Kia Seltos. For Mr. Vinod, the consideration is Kia Seltos. So I mean to say, it is not necessarily be money for to be a consideration. It can anything which can be given a value, anything which can be given a value, and both the party receive some value. Then it will be considered as valid contract. There should be some consideration. A contract without consideration can agreement, I can say a agreement without consideration cannot be treated as valid contract. A agreement without consideration cannot be treated as a valid contract. I will give you the example also. Like first, we will do some illustrations. Let's do some illustration. Then we will cover this topic in the next class. Let's do some illustrations. You will have to go through the PPTs and then you will answer the illustrations. The MCQs will help you to get a deep knowledge of the topic. Number one, law is a dash developed by the government or society over a certain territory. Law is a rule of conduct developed by the government or society over a certain territory. Dash can be defined as that aspect of law that deals with the relationship between citizen and states. What law deals with the relationship between citizen and its states? Public, private, domestic, and international law. That aspect of law which emanates from and has an effect on the members of a specific state. International law, domestic law, written law, unwritten law. The answer is domestic law. Dash are those laws which have been validly enacted by the legislature of a country. Validly enacted by the legislature of a country. International, domestic, written, unwritten law. Answer is written law. Law that deals with the process which the court must follow in order to enforce the substantive law. Written law, unwritten law, procedural law, substantive law. The answer is procedural law. The main body of law dealing with a particular area of law. Main body of law dealing with a particular area of law. Written, unwritten, procedural, substantive law. The answer is procedural law. Dash can be referred to as that aspect of law that regulate crime in the society. That regulate crime in the society. Criminal law, civil law, public or private law. Criminal law. Define as that aspect of law that deals with the relationship between citizen. That deals with the relationship between citizen and means and provide remedy if the right of the citizen is breached. Criminal law, civil law, public law, private law. The answer is civil law. Law that are enacted by the legislature and that are not enacted by the legislature. Law that are not enacted by the legislature. International, domestic, written and unwritten law. Answer is unwritten law. That category of law that concern itself between the citizens relationship between private citizen. That category of law that concern itself with the citizenship among private citizens. Public law, private law, domestic law, international law. Answer is private law. Thank you all for joining. In next class, we will cover the topic essentials of valid contract. Please take care, stay safe, stay healthy.